Let's be honest with each other. The alarm rings at 6 o'clock in the morning, and lately it feels a little tougher to swing your legs out of bed. You shuffle through the same morning routine, brew the same pot of coffee, and sit in the same traffic jam you've been sitting in for decades. Eventually, you land at your desk, stare blankly at the screen, and one very specific thought creeps in. Do I actually need to keep doing this? If you're over 60 and still clocking in full-time, chances are you've asked yourself that exact question recently, maybe more than once. And here's the truth. You are not alone, you're not overthinking it, and you are not foolish for wondering if it's finally time to walk away. We spend our entire working lives worrying about whether we've saved enough. The financial news keeps warning us about the next market crash wiping out our future. But here's something worth sitting with. If you're in your 60s, the real danger isn't a sudden downturn in the markets. The real danger is trading away the healthiest years you have left for money you may not even need. You're spending time you can never get back, just to pad a retirement account that might already be more than enough. Today we're having an honest conversation about why you might be ready to hand in your notice sooner than you think. Stepping away from a steady paycheck feels like a huge leap, and it is. But we're going to walk through how to tell if you're genuinely ready to take it. We'll unpack the emotional habits that keep people glued to their desks out of pure routine. We'll look at simple math that often shows you already have more than you assume without needing a finance degree to figure it out. We'll talk about Social Security and why claiming it early can sometimes be the smarter lifestyle decision rather than the wrong financial move it's often made out to be. And we'll tackle the question every early retiree dreads. What do you do about health coverage before Medicare begins at age 65? Keep it simple, and by the end, you may realize the only thing standing between you and retirement is permission to leave. Let's get into it. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, just one more year? You check your retirement balance and tell yourself that 12 more months will finally get you to that round number. Maybe you're chasing $500,000 or $1 million. Or maybe you're just waiting for a birthday you always assumed was the right age to retire. This is what's often called one more year syndrome, a mental trap that keeps pushing the finish line further away. Here's the problem with always working one more year. You're trading something priceless for something you may not need. Think about the diminishing returns on your time. Work another year in your early 60s, and your account balance may grow a little, but you're paying for those dollars with your health and your energy. Retirement planners often describe later life in 3 stages: the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years. Your go-go years are now, your 60s and early 70s, when your body still cooperates, your energy is strong, and you can still travel, hike, or keep pace with your grandkids. The slow-go years come later, when you still enjoy activities but prefer staying closer to home. Eventually, the no-go years arrive, when health naturally limits you. Every extra year at a desk is a go-go year you're giving up. So why do so many of us keep working past the point we need to? A lot of it comes down to decades of conditioning from the financial industry to keep saving no matter what. For 40 years, you've been told, save, save, and save more. Pulling money out of your accounts has been framed as dangerous, so shifting from saver to spender feels unnatural, even risky. The goalposts keep moving because you've been taught to fear running out of money above everything else. But it's worth pausing to ask what enough actually looks like for you. Financial magazines love to suggest you need several $1,000,000 before you can even consider retiring. Instead, look at your real lifestyle. Picture an ordinary Tuesday you'd actually want. For most people, a good retirement day means waking up without an alarm, a slow cup of coffee, time in the garden, a good book, or time with the people you love. You don't need a massive portfolio to live a quiet, comfortable, fulfilling life. Once you stop working, commuting costs disappear, payroll taxes disappear, and you're no longer funneling part of your paycheck into a retirement account. Your true cost of living drops. You don't need to replace every dollar of your old income. You need enough to live your life, and there's a good chance you already have it. Now let's talk numbers, briefly and without the jargon. Retirement planning gets dressed up as something that requires spreadsheets and an advanced finance degree, but it doesn't have to be that complicated. The more confusing it seems, the more likely you are to pay someone else to manage it for you. Let's simplify a few of the most useful concepts. First, a common misunderstanding. Most people know that touching retirement accounts before age 59 and a half usually triggers a 10% early withdrawal penalty from the IRS. Because of that, many assume they're locked into working until nearly 60. But there's a lesser-known exception called the Rule of 55. Under this IRS provision, if you leave a job, whether you quit, are laid off, or are let go, in or after the calendar year you turn 55, you can withdraw from that specific employer's 401k or 403b without the 10% penalty. Two important caveats. It only applies to the plan tied to the job you just left, not to accounts from earlier employers, and not to IRAs. You'll still owe ordinary income tax on withdrawals, but you skip the extra 10% penalty. For those 55 and older, this rule can be the bridge that makes early retirement possible. Next, how much do you actually need monthly? Most people assume they need to replace their full paycheck, but a working income and a retirement income aren't the same thing. Once you stop working, payroll taxes for Social Security and Medicare disappear. Commuting and work wardrobe costs disappear, and retirement contributions stop. Many financial planners suggest that replacing roughly 70 to 80% of your former income is enough to maintain your standard of living comfortably. Then there's the well-known 4% rule, often used as a starting guideline, not a rigid law, for how much you can withdraw from savings each year without running out of money over a 30-year retirement. The idea? Withdraw about 4% of your total savings in year one, and adjust that amount for inflation in the years after. If you have $500,000 saved, 4% is $20,000 a year. Combined with Social Security, that becomes your annual paycheck. It isn't perfect or guaranteed, but it gives you a reasonable, conservative starting point. Now, the biggest debate for anyone retiring in their 60s: Social Security. Some experts insist you should wait until full retirement age, 67 for most people born in 1960 or later, while others argue you should hold out until 70 to get the largest possible check. The language around claiming early at 62 often sounds like a punishment. It isn't. Choosing to claim at 62 simply means accepting a smaller monthly check in exchange for getting years of your life back sooner. Financial planners often show break-even charts. If you wait until 70 and live past roughly 82, you'll collect more total dollars over your lifetime. That's mathematically true. But your life isn't a spreadsheet. If your job is draining you, or you simply want more time with family, is waiting 8 extra years worth it just for a bigger check later? Claim at 62, and yes, the check is smaller, but you collect it for 8 additional years while someone waiting until 70 collects nothing during that stretch. One important consideration before claiming early: your spouse. When one spouse passes away, the survivor keeps the higher of the 2 Social Security benefits, and the smaller one goes away. If you're the higher earner, your benefit effectively functions as a form of protection for your spouse later on. Claiming early locks in a smaller survivor benefit permanently. This is worth an honest conversation with your partner about life expectancy and long-term needs. Sometimes it makes sense for the higher earner to wait a bit longer, and sometimes claiming early is still the right call for both of you. It's your benefit, earned over a career, and it exists to support your life. Now, The elephant in the room, healthcare. Many people are financially ready to retire, mortgage paid off, savings solid, kids independent, but stay anyway because Medicare doesn't begin until age 65. Walking away from employer coverage in your early 60s feels risky. These worries are legitimate, but there are real ways to bridge the gap. The Affordable Care Act, commonly called Obamacare, is one of the most useful tools here. Its premium tax credits are based on your taxable income, not your total savings or net worth. So even with significant retirement savings, keeping your taxable income low in early retirement can qualify you for meaningful assistance. It's worth knowing, though, that the temporary enhanced subsidies from the pandemic-era expansion expired at the end of 2025, and premiums for many marketplace enrollees have risen since. The original, income-based ACA subsidy structure is still in place, so it's worth checking current plans and costs for your specific income and zip code through healthcare.gov or your state's marketplace, rather than assuming a fixed price. COBRA is another option. It's a federal law letting you keep your exact employer health plan for up to 18 months after leaving your job. It's expensive because you now pay the full premium your employer used to subsidize, but it offers continuity. Same doctors, same network, same coverage, while you figure out a longer-term plan. And if you've contributed to a health savings account through a high-deductible health plan at work, that money can be a powerful resource. HSA funds withdrawn for qualified medical expenses are tax-free and can be used to cover early retirement medical costs, out-of-pocket expenses, or COBRA premiums. If you've been letting that account grow, early retirement is exactly when it can pay off. The healthcare gap before 65 is a real hurdle, but it's not an impossible one. You just need to know which options are available to you. So far, we've covered math, taxes, and healthcare logistics. But there's another side of retirement rarely discussed until you're in the middle of it: the emotional shift. For decades, you've introduced yourself by your job title, an identity, a routine, a built-in sense of purpose and community. When that structure disappears overnight, it can feel disorienting. Many new retirees describe their first quiet Tuesday morning: no alarm, a cup of coffee, and a strange stillness, followed by the thought, now what? Feeling a little lost in those first months is completely normal. You're not doing retirement wrong, you're adjusting to the loss of a professional identity you've held for decades. This is why it helps to retire towards something, not just away from work. You need a plan for your time, not only your money. Financial planning tends to focus entirely on making sure your accounts don't run dry, but it rarely asks how you'll actually spend your next few thousand mornings. That might mean a hobby you finally have room for, volunteering somewhere that matters to you, spending more time with grandchildren, or even picking up a low-pressure part-time role just for the social connection, without the corporate stress. The goal is finding something that gives you the same sense of purpose your career used to provide. If you're married, retirement changes your daily dynamic too. Suddenly, you're both home together far more than before. And while that sounds ideal in theory, it takes adjustment. Carving out separate space and separate activities is healthy, not a sign anything is wrong. It's worth having an open conversation with your spouse about how you'll navigate shared time and space. One helpful way to test your readiness: take a genuine 2-week trial run. Don't travel, stay home, and live exactly as you plan to in retirement. Wake up without an alarm, spend time on hobbies, and see how unstructured time actually feels. It's a useful way to spot what you'd want to adjust before making the leap for real. Before you go back to your usual Monday routine, here are 3 practical steps worth taking this week. First, pull up your latest Social Security statement and see what claiming at different ages would actually look like for you. Second, take 15 minutes to calculate your true bare minimum monthly expenses. Just the essentials, no extras. You may be surprised how manageable that number is. Third, look into Affordable Care Act plans available in your zip code through healthcare.gov, so you have real numbers instead of assumptions before fear of healthcare costs keeps you in a job you're ready to leave. You've worked hard for 30 or 40 years. You've saved, raised a family, and done what was asked of you. At some point, it's fair to give yourself permission to actually live, and to recognize that your healthiest remaining years are worth more than extra money you may not need.